So a good place to start, as always, go to Wikipedia and find out what does Wikipedia think geolocation is. So talking about, well, you've got a device. How do you find out where in the world that device is? But it's also not strictly limited to just its latitude and longitude. That's not really that interesting in itself. It's about the context of what's around that device. Where are the nearest bus stations? Where's the train station? How do I get home? Those kinds of things actually are sort of more useful. And again, I suppose we want to get out of that mindset that it's all about GPS, because geolocation can be done in a huge number of different ways. Each one of these having its own sort of pros and cons, really. Obviously, yes, you have the GPS, but you can also triangulate based on which Wi-Fi networks are nearby, if you know where those Wi-Fi networks are. Again, obviously, IP addresses are typically how it's done in sort of the desktop browser way. But also things like Bluetooth or RFID, things like that. If you go through the London Underground and swipe your Oyster card, well, London Underground clearly know where that Oyster card is because they know which reader it's just sort of passed over. Or again, things like your nearest neighbour. Who are you close by to? For example, if an app knows where someone in this room is, and they know that I'm close to that phone, well, they can obviously infer that I'm within that same sort of geolocation as well. Obviously, each of those has different accuracy levels. GPS perhaps down to meters or centimeters, depending on what the controllers of the GPS system will let you have access to, or different levels of accuracy there. But again, thinking about all those other sensors on that mobile phone or device and what it can do. So with an accelerometer, I can know, well, how fast am I traveling in a particular direction from my geolocation. With gyroscope, am I pitching, yawing, and rolling and doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things? With a compass, well, which direction am I standing in? I think certainly the interesting developments in things like sat-navs over the past few years, when you switched on your first generation TomTom, it just said, right, you're in the location. It didn't really tell you which direction to start going in. But now on a smartphone, it actually already knows that you're pointing in that direction, and you need to perhaps do a U-turn immediately, rather than wait for you to start traveling down the road and then kick in and think, no, you need to turn around. And obviously, there's other weird and wonderful things, the barometers and humidity sensors all coming into these smartphones. But also, again, we've got the camera. That's taking pictures, storing the geolocation perhaps in the image file. And obviously, other weird and wonderful things, we can do image recognition or place other information on that live feed. So I thought, well, let's go back down to the app developer's perspective as well. If I'm a developer and I want to create an app that uses a location, essentially I've just got to start off with putting these two lines in the right place in my app. And what that does, essentially will kick up. So when I try and install my app on a particular, this is on an Android device, that'll actually kick up this little box here that says this app wants to use your location. And, and the user's only got to click that accept button to actually go and install. So from the developer's perspective, actually really, really easy. So put in these permissions, the user grants that permission when they install. And then all I need to do really is add in a little bit of code somewhere in the right place. So this gets called every time the location changes. There's a little bit of code to go on before that, but it's not too complicated. And all I really need to do is say, well, now I've got the location's changed, we'll get that longitude and latitude. And it's as simple as that from the developer's perspective. So very, very straightforward. Then I thought, well, we've got that location. It's very easy to get hold of it. What can we do with it? So we can find, names, or not names, but the addresses or the postcode of where I'm standing at a particular moment in time. Calculate a distance to another known point or a route to that particular point. So we talked about find other devices nearby, perhaps with a Bluetooth or something like that. Or find information about that current location. Where is the nearest coffee shop, train station, bus stop, whatever that might be. And then into the other sort of tracking, or can we record a particular route, show where I've been. Perhaps I want to go hiking in the mountains and show my particular route up Snowdon or something like that. Did I beat my time from last week or something like that? Or follow that predefined route. So we've got that location, thinking about, well, how does it interact with a data protection perspective? Obviously, data protection usually starts off with, well, is it personal data? If it's not, well, it's perhaps out of scope of the Data Protection Act then. So that personal data is well known to a lot of people. Can someone be identified directly or indirectly from that personal data? So I think the question is really, is that location personal data?